One of the biggest stages in AI is robotics. We're going to see a massive surge in robotics companies over the coming years. And you could take a look at some of the top robotics stocks we're watching right now and see that on our watch list, number one is going to be Symbotic. Symbotic is a company that specializes in robotics, specifically related to, you could say they provide infrastructure for the companies that are transitioning to online and e-commerce that are already large companies. So we're going to get into all the different reasons why they've surged to $79. I'm an early investor in this company. I'd like to think, at least I started getting into them last year around $30 a share. Actually, we're investing in them back around their earnings this time. And we're going to take a look at some of the recent moves they've had. The first thing that you can know about the company is they're in the robotics market. It's a super fast growing industry. And here's where they're providing solutions. As you can see, they have these results that are delivered for Targets. They are delivering for Walmart. Walmart is definitely a big customer of theirs with over $500 million in deals uh, very consistently. Albertsons is another customer. And what are they doing exactly? They have this setup of these buses that can move around massive amounts of inventory, and it's all AI powered. So the reality is that there are a lot of tasks that humans do, like moving things around behind the Walmart, or let's say there's a new online order and we need to send it off to the customer. It's pretty repetitive. Is it easy? No, it's not. You got to move it around, probably forklift it. They've even automated the forklifting side of things where they pick up packages in the warehouse behind in the back of, let's say, Target or Walmart's, and then they ship it into the truck or what have you. And it's all based on intelligent software and neural networks that are able to process all of the inventory of the company and be able to consistently provide software solutions as well as inventory and heavy lifting solutions in the form of robotics here. You can see there's a lot of reasons why they've seen growth. Some of the top reasons are related to their contracts. And if we look at their recent contracts, aside from some of their rewards they've recently got, you can see, let's see, about retail grocery. Okay, so if you look at retail grocery, here, store ready pallets, inventory agility. And I don't know if they have their partnerships laid out here. It doesn't seem that they do, but we've seen the partnerships. So they're food wholesale, consumer packaged goods, food and beverage, footwear and apparel, and retail general merchandise. And then when we look at their actual AI powered software and what they have here, specifically, it is focused on self learning around the warehouse. So all of the different packages, complex routing, algorithms, and then, of course, communication from all the robotics to each other so they don't crash into each other and things like that. And they pride themselves in some of their solutions for big department stores specifically. If you look at, let's see if we can get their news pulled up here. So some of their recent news reports, you could see this was 2024. They announced a $500 million deal here with Walmart. Okay, so this was a very large deal. Let's see, the dollar amount wasn't actually mentioned in this article, but I think from later reports we were able to find that it was about 500 million. And their revenue and growth has really kicked off. So they, as we mentioned, are partnered with a lot of top department stores. If you look at their market caps at 47 billion, they're bringing in about $592 million per quarter. Revenue very, very consistent and growing year over year. Look at that trend over the last few years in revenue. Really, really starting to grow. And their 2024 revenue was 1.8 billion. This year, they're on track to do about 2.5 billion. So 51% year over year growth on their revenue. And their balance sheet here is at 1.5 billion annually. They're actually a little low on the balance sheet for a company that's doing $2.5 billion a year. I would expect their total assets to be larger, So they don't have a ton of equity there, only about $500 million. And given their operation costs seem to be fairly high, given that their net income is still negative, I would expect that we'd see that balance sheet clean up and get a little more favorable here over the next few quarters. But here's the deal, they're growing very fast, and $47 billion market cap is pretty high for the current valuation, but in the game of robotics, they could be massively undervalued. And the reason why is because you're looking at a market where they're essentially going to be maximizing the return on investment for companies in their employment, basically. They are able to do things that normally you'd have to, pay thousands of people to do, and they are automating that process. And maybe it is, $35 an hour, $40 an hour forklift worker. Sure. That's, let's say, $100, $200 a day. That forklift worker now won't have a job, so that's maybe a little bit concerning, but I think, they'll find what to do next. I ultimately think so. And things in robotics surely will be done much better next year than they've done this year, and the year after that will be much better. And I'd imagine that robotics are just going to continue to gain more momentum into this market. It just makes sense, and given the revenue growth over the last few years, that's what it's looked like. So with Symbotic's levels, I think we had some drawings to see. Yeah, so we had an overall uptrend. Last we were watching them, I think they were down here around $45 a share. At least when we last had a video, and we were looking for a gain of about 45% up into this previous resistance and continuing their trend. They actually did continue. In fact, more than 45%. They actually surged 85%, and they're at $81 a share right now. So in the last 2 months, they've surged about 85%, or actually less than that. A month, let's see, a month or 2 months. Yeah, 2 months they've surged basically 80%. And now that you're looking at them here in the near term, it looks like they are overbought. You can see the RSI and the MACD here on the overbought side. Usually when we see the RSI and MACD getting those levels, we do see some pullbacks. It's quite often. And if we look at the greater trend, yes, they're an uptrend. In the slightly shorter trend, they look a little overbought. Okay, so robotic stocks in the long term are going to be great. And I think this is a company that will be great 5-10 years from now. When we're looking at the near term here, just over the last few months, you can see this very consistent uptrend, and they're actually at a resistance. So you got rising support here, rising support, rising support, rising resistance. Okay, now the resistance here around this $82 range in this trend would indicate we could potentially see a sell down, something like this. Now this would be very conservative, about a 10 to 15% drawdown into that $70 range, but definitely one to watch as they're overbought right now. In the technical side of things, you see this previous resistance here that could potentially act as a support to watch. And then you also have a previous resistance here around $78. So while they're ratcheting up, they're also still kind of in this level of resistance that's, if they sell back down, the nearest level of support would be this previous resistance at around 80, or let's see, $79 a share. 79 bucks a share is 3% drawdown. Conservatively, we're looking at $74 a share, 10% drawdown there. And then if you wanted to go really conservative, maybe even as low as $70 a share in their trend here. But overall, we see them really continuing up. I would expect them to be continuing up, but we can also ask AI. What AI do we want to use for the analysis? Let's use Claude, and the ticker symbol is SYM, and we're using the machine. This is our proprietary software that pulls all the financials, looks at the news, looks at the SEC filings, the insider trading, all that good stuff, which we can actually pull in here. A new feature we recently added was the top transactors. This has been very helpful. And another feature we added is being able to save your widget views, which is very cool. So I can actually save my widget view and however I have my widgets set up. I can come back and have multiple pages what we're working on next year. So let's take a look. It is revealing that they have a pull down. That's kind of what we were talking about, that resistance, little formation of a bearish flag pattern. That's what we were just talking about. It says nearest retracement is at $79. That's kind of what we were looking at here. So 79 again, right here is that nearest support level for them to get back to. Let's take a look at the next week. So next week, it says as they're inching towards the $82 price level, it's a resistance, but they might continue the upward momentum and propel further into more growth. Okay, as we're looking at the 1 month, they are looking to hold around that $84 price point. So there is, I guess, a level here. Have we seen? Let's see, let's take a step back. Yeah, so they're at a resistance. Overall sentiment, though, seems to be bullish. They have some momentum in this range. So then over the next year, they're expected to jump about 14.7%, according to Claude, which has been quite accurate. We've been using it a lot. Even including cyclical analysis, this is the 200-day moving average that it's looking at, and expected to, with some consolidation phases and pullbacks, make its way up into that 92.85 range, according to our AI. The other thing to consider here is when we're looking at the institutional ownership and the insiders. For the institutional investors, there's been 30 buys and 56 sells. According to the Claude analysis of the insider trading, it says that's 66 buys versus 182 sells. Selling pattern from both parties could suggest caution, potential profit taking, though it's important to consider the trends alongside other fundamental factors. And I agree, when we're looking at the levels right here, you could see some of the top holders of the stock. Let's see who the buyers are. Yeah, okay. And who's been selling lately? All right. Yeah, so you got some sales kicking in, more sales than buys, as you could see. Kind of looking at the both, maybe a few buys recently, but for the most part, looking at that, the insiders, you do have some selling happening here. Chief Strategy Officer had some buys this past week, but here's what we just had in the last 5 days. We had a cut of their position by 50% from Free Maria. Boyd William ended up selling in the last week or so, cutting their position by nearly 100%. And so you do have some sell-offs from the Chief Strategy Officer quite aggressively in this last month. Maybe seeing that big surge as we talked about here into October, this big surge, potential correction inbound in the near term. And that's conservative. Maybe we even see this previous resistance level that we saw back here in August. It was acting as a support for them here at about October 15th. Maybe they sell as low as that previous resistance in their overall uptrend. And now that would be a 22% drawdown, and quite a significant drawdown from current prices. So I like the long term. I think they're a good long-term play, as I do have some positions in the company. And then in the short term, we are looking at a little bit of downward pressure. Unless, of course, people see, hey, robotics, this looks really good. This tech's going to be huge. Look at all their deals. And they continue to rally based solely on sentiment. But right now, just from a valuation standpoint, they're looking a little overbought. Claude would seem to agree in the near term, as again, kind of looking at a downtrend here in the next day or so. So that's what it looks like here for Symbotic stock. But we'll see if any opportunities present themselves on the pullbacks here for Symbotic. If you guys ever want to tune into our daily live trading sessions, we're there Monday through Friday. It's the second link in the description below to join and tune on in to stock meets. And again, it's not here on YouTube. It's another link that you get in your email about 15 minutes before the market opens. It takes you to a live stream, and you can join in, see how we enter and exit positions or what investments we're making in the markets. And then you also get a community of like-minded investors. We have some really great testimonials recently. David was talking about CTM. That's a stock we've been following recently that's done very, very well recently. And then if we just kind of look in the last news for a little bit, David had a nice testimonial. He grew his account by 200% since joining StockMate, up to 31K there, about $21,000 gain. Very nice. He says, thanks to the community. Thanks, David, for tuning in. Appreciate you. And if you guys want to learn with other investors that are experienced, we have over 24 millionaires here. And then if you want to learn from investors that are beginner, or you're a beginner, and there's also some beginners there as well. And then, of course, if you want to send me a message, you could always shoot me a message in the community. So again, live sessions are there as well. Second link in the description below. Would love to see you there. And you actually get a free t-shirt when you join. When it comes down to using the AI tools, this tool here has been super powerful. We still have beta open, and you can visualize markets, see how companies are connected and things like that. It's the first link in the description below to get your hands on this machine. In fact, we got some new features rolling out, like being able to see the different movements in the market, and also color coding them. Yeah, brighter green if they're way up, or darker green, or not as green if they're, let's say they're almost just a little bit red, they might be a little bit red. But if they're maybe really red, then they have a darker red. Pretty cool stuff. We just added to the watch list there. And also the visualization of markets. If you want to be able to, click on a company, see Big Bear and Palantir, for example, click on the connection. We're working on being able to visualize that connection as well, which is going to be very exciting. So again, that's the first link in the description to get access to the beta, as we have it rolled out for just a small number of people. Thanks so much for tuning in. If I earned your thumbs up, hit the like button, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.